Welcome back to Deep Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Today I've got the audio running and the camera running. I did an episode and I didn't like it. Then I did it again and the camera wasn't on. I mean, it was on, but it wasn't recording. I normally have the camera set up so if I don't push record, it turns off. I must have flicked the button or something in the settings, which I almost never touch. Still writing my book. That's why there's a big delay. Getting down to one of the last rewrites. You know, rewrites are just looking for facts that are wrong. Lots of editing, cutting it down. You want to cut down about 10%. I think you guys will really dig the book. There's nothing, no story out there like this at all. So I thought I'd just make an episode. I'm not sure if we're going to stick to one subject. All kinds of stuff going on, right? I'm working on exploring some really cool episodes. I did a 2-hour episode on my encounters, which I'm now trying to find the time to do all of the animations of what I was seeing and who I was seeing. I really want to get it right this time. And that episode's a month old. It's just sitting in my editing bay waiting for the 3D. The one I screwed up, I'm going to save because I'll probably end up redoing it when I have patience to do it. I've been spending my spare time watching a lot of Area 52. Some pretty interesting areas in that guy's show. I'm starting to become more of a Chris Ramsey fan. I like his independent shows that are just like this, where he sits in a room and just goes through things. And it turns out he's actually just as skeptical as we are. You know, he's like, hey, grain of salt, you know. He does think Bob Lazar got 2 degrees, one in Pasadena and one in Caltech, except he was a refrigerator repair guy in 1982 in Los Alamos Labs and graduated high school somewhere around 1977. So I don't know how you get all those degrees in that amount of time, because you got to get your undergrad before you can get a master's, and you got to have a master's before you can get your PhD. So I'm not sure. Some people just want to believe, right? And I think some people are such good con men straight to your face that you just tend to kind of get tricked. But Chris is a magician. That's the wild thing, right? But I think a lot of it could do with, hey, you're going to leak this information. We're going to give you really good backup information so that in 20, 30 years, 40 years, we'll dump actually extra reinforced information that you're telling the truth, even though you completely made it up in 1989. I don't know. I just know that if he lived in Massachusetts long enough to get a PhD or a master's, doesn't matter, he would have Massachusetts stories, and he'd have friends and universities. His family would know that he did these things. He'd have a paper trail. They said, oh, they erased my past. Okay, who paid for your degree, bro? Who paid for it? You mean you have no receipts of buying anything from those locations? I know it's a long time ago, but I think when you write a $20,000, $30,000 check for your education, I checked Harvard. I checked MIT, and that degrees were no less than $15,000 a year. In the 70s and 80s, that would have been just unbelievable. Always looking at AI, of course, always using AI, always programming AI. Lots of gaslighting out there. There's a ton of gaslighting right now in the alien world, the alien, area of sightings, crash recovery, personal experiences. It's amazing how some guys will get like almost a 4-hour interview. I saw this interview on 5052. Guy comes in, he's really polished, man. It looks like we're going to have the best testimony you've ever seen in your life of a guy seeing anything. What was it? He was out with another dude driving in a truck. He sees a big a big orange fireball in the sky. And we're talking gigantic fireball in the sky. And then he said suddenly he saw some like grays in front of the car. That's about all he experienced. That's like the whole story. And he got a 3.5-hour interview on Area 52. It went nowhere. I got about 2/3 through. I was like, there's no new information. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's a bar about 100 yards down and 100 feet down. And sometimes people walk in front of the store here and they're just yammering about a bunch of personal stuff. They don't know I'm in here recording. It's going all on the mic, right? But this guy, they eventually regressed him on a bed. It was unlike, was it Bernie Hill? Who literally was massively traumatized and screaming and yelling. I mean, he's like an unbelievable Betty and Barney Hill, I think, had a real experience. But this guy is this big, he's head of security, or he's a big part of security. He's big, big guy. And he's on a bed just bawling like a baby, but it's so like technical acting. You're like, well, first of all, nothing bad's happening to you, so what are you crying about? They're not doing anything. They're not probing you. They're not doing it. You're just looking at an orange ball in the sky, and you may have seen some grays. And it was grays way after everyone else, already been on TV. History's Mysteries had already been out with Leonard Nimoy, and he showed the grays. This was not a new concept. In fact, I think it was in and around the time Close Encounters came out. I was like, what is a big head of security bawling like a baby for? Literally like a goo-goo baby, not like a grown man crying. Wow, it just blows me away. And this is getting all the credibility, which is why I think the amount of gaslighting right now is just off the chain. We're bombing Iran again. As of this recording, it's the 8th day. Now, on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, all I want to look at is art, dancers, like break dancers and lowriders and just cool shit, right? That's all I want to see. And suddenly, I don't know why. I don't engage in any of this other crap outside of those social media circles. I'm getting all these AI videos from Iran, apparently, of like nukes going off in Israel and nukes going off and all around the world. Horrible AI. You block one, you say you're not interested. There's another one right below it. You block that, not interested. And they're just shoveling this incitement of terror into social media. Instagram's culpable for it. The people who create the channels are culpable for it. And of course, it's part of the plan, right? So the problem with doing anything current, like if I do any episode that isn't about like Bermuda Triangle or something else, it's just so we can talk. And that's cool. It's what today's episode is going to be about. Probably erase this at some juncture 3 months from now. It'll be gone. It has no value. I mean, it's valuable right now and that's it. One listen and you're done. If I do Bermuda Triangle or Philadelphia Experiment or Spontaneous Combustion or Titanic, those sit there on the shelf, right? Like an encyclopedia book of this channel. It's always valuable because it just has one dude's opinion, right? You can't weigh into any opinion about the war because you're just going to get just as many people disagreeing as agreeing with you. And why would you even say anything in the first place? See, when I was a kid, it was like you don't speak about politics or religion at the dinner table. And it was a miracle. Everyone got along. Everyone got along when that was the case. And not so much now, right? AI. Now, 6 months ago, if you asked ChatGPT, when are we going to have an AGI, an artificial general intelligence? I did episodes on this. I mentioned this. ChatGPT is like 30 years from now at the earliest, if ever. CEO of NVIDIA just came out. I think we're there already. I think we got it. I watched a little 18-minute interview with a guy. It was Russian. He said nothing in the interview that was remotely indicative of a high IQ. I don't even know. It just blows me away. And he goes, the host, I don't know this kid. He's like, on this show, we try to find mega geniuses. And it's like, well, if you're a fucking dipshit, then anyone who walks in the room is going to seem like a mega genius. And apparently that's what's going on in this thing, because in 18 minutes, the only thing this guy said was, I think in 100 years, the human race will be extinct. I think by 2030, we're going to be disrupted. It's like, okay, Professor Genius, Professor Obvious. Disruption in 3 years. Yeah, probably. And just ask the agricultural revolution about the industrial revolution. Ask the industrial revolution about the technical revolution, and ask the technical guys about the AI revolution. There was always these guys, and they're always on the edge of their life. They're in their 60s or late 50s or 70s, and they're already got that Bart Sibrel, the world's going to end thing. For me, when old guys get the end of the world disease, and I sure as hell, if I start saying end of the world disease shit, and I'm whatever age I'm at, then I'm done. My brain is cooked. Something happened to me, right? I'm not normal anymore. I'm not having normal thoughts that I would normally have. But I think that the way I have interpreted this is it's kind of a big FU from the people that try to espouse that stuff. Because they're always in that age bracket where it's like, well, I got my life. Too bad you won't get yours. I mean, that's really what they're saying. And it's an asshole thing to say. I'm sure that when I was born in 69, plenty of people were like, oh my God, that kid's going to grow up in the hippie revolution. You know, he's probably going to be dropping acid before he's in kindergarten. And then I got to live in this heyday for me, which was 85 to 90. That was like a massive heyday of just amazing culture, movies, music, everything. We got along. How about that? And then when the press started telling people, you know, to change into the 90s grunge, to change into the 90s gangster rap, oh my God, the sheeple just chased that thing off a cliff. So to me, I see that generation having suffered. But, you know, they made it through it. China had a boxing match between two robots, pretty damn funny, flying kicks and all this other stuff. One robot knocked the other robot's head kind of clean off the stock, but it was kind of hanging by the wires, and it was trying to figure out where the hell it was. It was pretty funny. Looked like some sort of episode of Red Dwarf where Crichton had lost track of his head, and Vlad the Impaler got rid of his head. But right now, I mean, if you make a comment about robots or AI, there's just like, immediately when you make a comment, there should almost be like this little life clock that just follows that statement around like a HUD. And it's just counting down to when it's useless. Like it's a useless statement because even if it's true, it gets replaced by the new technology, right? But I could really use you long-timers, you OG listeners. You know my portfolio of stuff I've said, right? Because I have the time to crank out episodes. What I don't want to do is crank out crap, right? This episode right here will be as near to a skid stain in a trouser than any other episode I've ever made. But I'm kind of calling out to you guys for help. The thing you can do is bring up deepthoughtsradio.com, and this is not a plug for it. There's no traffic there, so I mean, like, whatever. Go to the search field, especially on a computer. That's the best part. Laptop or computer is the easiest way to do it. If you're on a phone, you got to scroll all the way to the bottom. I don't know why anyone would use a phone for website browsing, but get in the search field. If you got an idea, and we're looking for first kind of low-hanging fruit, mass appeal stuff, right? The fun stuff, Titanic, you know, it's the Olympic that sank, not the Titanic. The Titanic was renamed the Olympic, and it sailed all the way into like, the late 40s, right? From 1912. Just cool stuff, right? Maybe a movie that that applies to today's sort of climate. You know, I've done a ton of them. I only did like Blade Runner and Tron, I think, were the two that I did that don't really apply to reality. I just know a lot about those franchises, haven't worked with the people that made it. So I just wanted to share my stories about it. But Logan's Run, Andromeda Strain, Rollerball 1975, you know, these are films that you're living through. Looker. These are such important films to understand. You're living inside Looker right this second. Runaway with Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons, another one. I didn't do the episode yet, but that's another great one. So I need ideas. I need ideas for episodes. Now, some of you will mention like really interesting scientists and real interesting people. And there is some meat on those bones. And it's not like I did Royal Raymond Rife. I forgot the guy's name, but the guy that really invented one of the first electric vehicles back in the day. So there's some interesting people. I did one on Galen Windsor, the nuclear expert, who said that none of this stuff is radioactive like you think, or he eats an isotope in the middle of an interview. He does it every time presentation. He does it every time he presented. I think he lived to be 76 years old and did not die of cancer. Any type of UFO crash site that I haven't covered. I will be doing Aztec again. I guess Chris Ramsey keeps talking about how I think he's going to weigh in on it. And I want to take what I had already done because I got all the artwork that I came up with. I'm going to find out what he's adding to it because I found a dead end. I mean, I went all over the place, standard conspiracy channels, Rumble videos, BitChute videos. But BitChute, you got to give that thing credit, man. It is so superior to Rumble. I don't know why it's not the next big YouTube. It's got some of the greatest tools on the back end. If you're a content creator, they just have more videos, and they don't like Rumble went mainstream kind of, and their category fields are the worst category fields you have ever seen in your life. All these video games in there. It's just shitty coding. I'm just going to tell you that. It's like whoever made Rumble gets an F plus for what they've done, man. Unbelievable. Art's fine. I can't even find videos I've uploaded. Meaning I can go to my channel and see it and play it, but if I hit edit, it won't go into that particular video's edit. It's just nuts, right? But yeah, these famous people are cool. But sometimes the information is so esoteric or requires a fair amount of, personal knowledge. It needs to lead to some interesting thing, like someone saying they traveled in time or something, or time is something you can traverse, right? And then, if I think I can explain it to everybody, I definitely will take the time to do that. The other cheat sheet thing we can do is go look at, season probably 1 through 4. Again, on YouTube, it's on a different channel, but if you just go to the website, it's there. There might be episodes that I did in the past with very few pictures, or it was just maybe not as good as it could have been. Like I redid CERN Hadron Collider recently, right? But maybe we can go back and redo some of those and update things. Like I could probably redo the Mandela effect. We've finally gotten through that phase. There's no new ones that are being thrown around, right? There's all the old ones. But someone did find the Fruit of the Loom, I forgot what they call it, with the little basket. Someone finally found the original logo on a piece of clothing. Okay. They tried to tell you it didn't exist. Like, what the hell? Everybody knows. I like to redo a lot of season 1 sort of self-improvement ones, just because I think new people are here and they're not used to the black and white format. God damn. You guys hear that? I'm going to leave that one in. That's HB, man. I just think that people will lose interest, right? You came in for moon stuff. You came in maybe for an alien thing, an AI thing. You're coming in for the more modern subject matter. And if I did an episode on time management, everyone would just be like, But for the people that did get in at that early stage, I'm telling you, I spent the late 80s and early 90s really ingesting a lot of paper content, magazines, books. I mean, I had a subscription to a science book club and a psychology book club, and I was getting a book a month, and I would buy extras, other things, right? And I would read them, ingest them, and magazines. I just was so into like figuring that stuff. I got tape courses from people I don't even know. I did Tony Robbins about 93 or so, changed my life. I think his course now sucks. He just fucked up all the basics, right? And so when I made all those self-improvement ones, or self-help, or whatever you want to call them, it's all the stuff that wasn't in them, all those other things. I mean, or it was just, I don't know. Or I bumped into an article in Psychology Today, and it was like, to this day, I'll walk into a lounge and I hear someone talking about how they're struggling to figure out how their brain works, and they don't know how to do it. And I'll hear something that I'm just going to share it with you again. There's stringers and there's groupers. Groupers are people that deal with chaos really well. Just give me the gist. Just give me the gist. We got to move on. And they tend to accelerate higher up in military, in corporations, because they're directors, they're cinematographers who are just looking at a big mess. And they're like, okay, we'll just move that light over here. Let's do that. All right, yeah. I'm just going to cut that thing off. We'll get the shot, right? A stringer is your super anal retentive. I got to read every page in this book, and if I do not, God's going to send me to hell, right? Very, I would say, like ADHD. And so they'll tend to do really good on tests. They read the whole book. They do really good. They get straight A's, and then they're packing your groceries for the rest of their lives. I'm a massive grouper, but I've had to learn how to be a stringer because of code and other linear things. Writing, that kind of thing. It's unforgivable. You have to be a part of a stringer to write a sentence properly, right? So it's those kind of things that I put into all the episodes, all these little tricks of the trade to just help, especially young people, like, let's just cut across this field because we don't need to walk that big road. There's no sense in going all the way around. When this works right here. Yeah, it's kind of muddy, but whatever. You'll survive. And just kind of get you through. Parenting. I got a lot of good comments on my parenting episode, and it was basically one little trick. Instead of telling my daughter no all the time, I said to her, when she could barely speak English, I said, you know what? when you grow up and you have kids, you got to make sure they don't put their fingers in this power outlet. 5 minutes later, if even that, my best friend comes through the front door. She's about, 2.5 feet tall. He's 6'4". She goes up to him and grabs his hand and pulls him over to the power outlet. And she goes, no touch, no touch. So instead of me being a father who said, no, I taught her that she's the authority. She's simply simulating that she has children. So I'm teaching her how to be a parent, how to be an authority. It's an easy way to reverse the algorithm, right? Tricks of the trade, man, that's all. Just remember, if you want to write a movie, I think I've got like 7 or 8 episodes on how to write movies. From someone who's done it. From someone who's read all the other books, right? What I've read about 6 since I started writing my book. And so now, mixing all that with screenwriting, oh my God, I can get you there really fast. And if you got a story with the premise that holds up, I'll get you there. But what would happen now if I dropped a how to write a movie episode? I mean, maybe you dig it. Personally, I just love learning about things like Virginia, Brazil, UFO crashes. I mean, that was so much fun. A little trivia about the show. The episode I hated the most was the Anunnaki episode. When I finally researched it, I thought it was the stupidest story I've ever heard in my life. Like, almost not worth the breath coming out of my mouth. Another piece of trivia, when I was filming season 1 and 2, I think it was all in season 1, an episode concept that I accidentally filmed twice and didn't realize I was editing a total duplicate of another episode because I was numbering them instead of naming them, was there's 2 episodes on morality. I must have thought that was real important because I recorded 2 of them. But it's weird, when you do a show for 11 years, it's 11 years old now, which is so weird. I just got the 10th anniversary. Oh, you know why? Because I deleted season 1. That's right. But I mean, I still have episode 26 out there, which I believe was filmed in 2015. The first show aired in late June, early July of 2015. We're well past the 11-year mark now. Now, I used to take June off, but you'll have an episode that you'll do because you've taken so much time between episodes. And it'll be one you remember that you're really proud of. And then you rewatch it and you're like, ugh. I think with the black and white to color conversion, what I tried to do was really tighten the presentation, right? And with the black and white one, especially some of the night episodes, they're just not accessible to, brand new folks. And, there is a point of like, I don't really care about, having some giant surge of subscribers. Again, I told you guys 1,000 times, that would freak me out. I mean, if I came in and, somebody pointed a bunch of folks at my channel, it would just be like the responsibility of holding it up would be rough. Being able to pay the bills with it, man, that'd be something. But I'm sure that I've got such a diverse channel that I just don't even know if that audience is out there in any mass quantity. I don't know. But with the older black and white format, it was much more loose. You guys were just coming in like, I got this weird dude off to the side. He's like this weird guy, and I don't know anything about him, but he's in black and white. The thing with black and white was that, and there's 2 stories about me shooting in black and white, or 2 factors, I should say. One, I am a noir addict. I will collect black and white things. It's just when I got a lanyard of, for those of you who know Disneyland, Disney World franchise, they used to have this awesome button thing you would do. You bought these buttons at the store, you got a lanyard, and you could trade with anybody in the park, of course, right? But you could also go up to cast members, pull one off, and you demand the one that's on their lanyard, and they have to give it to you. Now, the trick was that folks were going in with Chinese knockoffs and trading one that's worth 25 cents for one that's worth $8. Now, of course, they made that for 25 cents, but you get what I'm saying, right? So it kind of deteriorated when everyone moved in with all the fraud. But I have a massive lanyard of black and white, just priceless buttons, big old giant chunky ones like Flavor Flav, Tron ones, and all kinds of cool stuff. It's all black and white. So I have this black and white fetish. And then it was filming in the backyard, and the light was never good. And so I was like, okay, I'm literally sitting with the first episode, which is me with no microphone. I'm shirtless, which now looks pervy. And the audio sucks. And I only sent it to like 3 people. And the lighting sucks. So I just dumped it into black and white and I added this really hardcore noir filter on it, which really made the blacks black and the whites white. And suddenly I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm in the middle of my thing anyway. I was coming too close to my pin thing, but when you have a little kid, you get into all kinds of wild stuff at Disneyland. Now, what was also really wild was that I arbitrarily picked 100 episodes to really indicate that we went to another season. And if those of you remember the early seasons, man, I was knocking out sometimes 3 times a week. And I would just be able to, because I had a house, right? So I was able just to go, I feel it, boom, outdoors, film, get back inside. And then the woman who owned the house dies, right? By the way, that house was completely taken down to the studs and rebuilt. And the backyard was completely gutted. But the house that's there right now, I drove by it the other day, and it is stunning. It is like unrecognizable. It's still the same layout and everything. Who knows what's inside? But it's just crazy. There's no grass anymore. It's all, I don't know about the backyard, but the front yard is all like AstroTurf, but the really plasticky kind. It just looks odd. That's the only thing that's kind of strange. But it was a rough yard, to be honest. The backyard was great, but the front yard was all pitted and strange. I do miss that house. And again, on Patreon, there's a link to an episode where I just basically, I'm sitting in the backyard. The house is packed up. I mean, it was just a crazy, weird episode of like, geez, nearly 20 years in this place. And then it's just a sudden, you got to get out, which sudden took me about 8 months. For those newcomers, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? House. But I have to say, what's the phenomenon of this show, from my perspective, is that I have literally drained my brain into this show. I mean, of the average thoughts I have on a daily basis, I have just taken every nook and cranny, because typically what would happen is this, and it was a phenomenon in my life when I created this show and really got the folks over from MK Ultra Radio, and I got a few of you out there that listened to that show. I mean, wild that you guys followed over. I can't thank you enough. I'm honored to have you. Let's put it that way. But I used to have these notebooks, and they're Mead spiral notebooks that are grid paper, and they're pretty expensive, like $30, and they're just blank, right? About 1/2 inch thick. And I would just sit and write in these things constantly. You guys would get a kick out of them because they're kind of like, 8 pages on how I think a UFO might work, how the propulsion system might work, how the fabric of it might work, I create brand new forms of writing, like completely weird forms of writing with the translation of the code, the cipher, stories, screenplays, all the Sid Field's 3-act charts. I've got tons of those, a whole box of them, probably 2 boxes of them. So imagine a U-Haul box with them stacked, probably 2 tiers, 1/2 inch thick a piece. I mean, that's a lot, right? But as this show started catching on, where I was like, oh, I'll just dump it into an episode instead of writing it all down. It gave me a longer format. It let me really vet what I'm saying, because I'm putting it out there in the public to be vetted by you guys. So those kind of faded away. I still have my old ones, but it's a very interesting thing that as mediums change, eventually things change. And I still have notebooks, but honestly, I do love writing in notebooks. There's nothing better than analog writing. But I'm doing, my book is 420 pages, double spaced. I think that'll print to about 325 to 350, except that probably more like 350. I think you're really going to love this journey. And it's going to be a trip for those of you who have been with me since the beginning, because you'll be like, whoa, that dude wrote a book. What the hell, But I had to really get my chops for writing novels, which is a tremendous amount of studying, to basically make sure it's like, look, there's a pragmatic, meaning like a list of things you have to do. And then you got to put your story in there. And you got to write that beautifully. And I've got, writing mentor friends of mine who are legends. Some of them have written books. Some of them are all screenwriters, but they know books real well. And I've been in lunches where, a friend of mine that I've known for 20 years, who I admire, who's my writing mentor, goes, "You ever read Philip K. Dick?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah. I haven't read all of his books, but yeah, he's a shitty writer. He's really awful." And I'm like, this guy going, "I think you only have one book out, and I think Philip K. Dick has several television shows. He's credited with all kinds of amazing inspiration. He inspired Charles Beaumont, who wrote, my God, what, 20 or 30 Twilight Zones that are legendary. Like, what do you mean? Maybe it's just not your cup of tea, So there'll always be someone who's not going to like your stuff, But I'll tell you what, I'm just rambling here, right? Writing a script, a screenplay, you're probably wanting to come in around 115 pages, even though you're allowed to go to 120. So anywhere between 110 and 120. Hollywood barely reads anymore, so the shorter you can make it, the better. It's better to know someone and just pitch it over coffee and then give them a script. But when you go to novel, the amazing thing is these shackles and these chains come off. Write as much as you need to. Don't write more than write more than you need to and cut it all away. And so I've gotten to that point of rewriting where it's like, this first one, I just had talked to a buddy of mine, he's got 5 books out, and he's like, the first one's a horror, man. He goes, don't feel bad. Because you can't make a first impression ever again, right? And because there's so much jealousy and coveting and gatekeeping and all forms of entertainment, they're always looking for that thing. Do we allow him to be a great writer? Do we really push that opinion about the guy, or are we going to crucify this guy for the rest of his life? It doesn't even matter if your next book's the greatest thing in the world. It'd be like, well, he did write that other one. But mine is, I think the biggest reward you're going to get out of my book is the second you finish the last page, it's time to go back to the beginning. And when you read it through a second time, you're going to get a whole nother layer. You're going to get a whole nother layer to the hologram. It's going to be cool. It's not science fiction. One of the reasons why I've pushed since the beginning creativity, and just think about it, 2015, I start this thing, right? You hadn't seen ChatGPT, which was technically released in 2022. We didn't know this stuff was coming like it's arrived, right? Now, for me, creativity is part of how you are made in God's image. God created everything. Therefore, when you create, you're in God's image. Forget about 10 fingers and 10 toes, and those tingers, whatever those things are. It's all about creation and this feeling you get when you create something. And again, creation can be just a good conversation. Could be a scribble on a piece of paper no one ever sees. You could scribble something on a piece of paper, love it, and burn it in a candle. I mean, you could do whatever you want. It's just up to you, right? But I think there's this built-in edification in the universe for creating something. And then if you can take that thing, never manifesting one molecule of ego, you may have confidence. That's completely different, knowing that you could do it. And you push it out there so people enjoy it. And they have a good experience, man. That's what I hope the episodes do. That's why I'm just not making anything, right? Except this episode. But you push it out there and someone's had a weird day. They need to be distracted or they're bored. Either they had a bad day and they need just something to smooth them out and take them in a whole different direction. And if you can do that one time with someone, a piece of music, whatever, a ghost story, whatever you want to say, whatever your cup of tea is, it's going to become a coveted thing. And so the reason why I mention that is that there's, again, the genius I saw interviewed today for 18 minutes. Well, what do you think the careers are that they're going away, and which ones do you think are going to stay? Here's like this massive IQ guy talking. Well, anything that's repetitive will be replaced, and anything that's more complex will stay behind. It's like, wow, professor. Did you get an award for that? Did you walk across the stage and get a PhD for that? You probably did, didn't you? But creativity will be that probably the longest lasting sort of category of man that will survive and go the distance. Everyone's got it in them. Everyone, I guarantee it. You got a soul, and the soul is bound to the universe. You don't know most of what the universe has out there, which is good. You don't want to be in the total perspective vortex and learn everything at the same time. That'd blow your mind. So that little trickle a little trickle from the universe. Just point your brain at something that you think is interesting, and then allow the dip switch to get flicked where it's like, I would not only like to observe that, I'd like to know more about it. And then you take AI and you have it teach you everything. Then you go get the books. You talk to the human beings. You use these tools to empower yourself. I said the word empower. And you just hunker down. Enjoy your life, man. Now, I want to talk more about the episodes. Well, I got some time here because I want you to hear in my words sort of the backstage opinions I've got of some of the stuff I've been doing. I try to mention it in the episodes from time to time, but we just have an open mic now. I love the moon stuff. I love it. I could honestly tolerate recording the same information over and over again, or doing sort of a yearly pickup episode where it's like, take it all and re-explain it. New things come out all the time. I heard one, for instance, the other day where some guy thinks he's got him pinched on a fact, which is, I guess I wasn't alive. I'm sorry. Yeah, I wasn't alive at the time. So by the time they came back from Apollo 11, I guess they were airing footage from the vehicles on TV the very next day. Well, how do I confirm that? I mean, if that was the case, that'd be pretty stunning. But I mean, honestly, you could envision that, right? Capsule comes down if it was real, and then it's in there. Get those converted. Get some piece of footage on TV. That's just like a directive from whoever, Nixon. But there's a lot of one-trick pony stuff all over the web. I mean, in social media, I should say. I like to follow new artists, singers especially, rappers, singers, what have you. Anyone just doing something cool. And I will find that there's a couple musicians out there, amazing, beautiful people, but they will do the same fucking song, I don't know, 50 times and just keep pushing it on their social media, pushing it on their Instagram mainly. But they do Facebook too. Instagram, I mean, it's the same song. It's the same verse. It's the same everything. It sounds exactly, maybe they wear different clothes. Maybe they're in a different setting. That's usually the case. But no one wants to listen to anything that much, right? It's like getting a back massage for like 4 weeks, with that, it's like, stop touching me after like 3 hours, right? So I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be like, oh, another moon recap, here we go. It's like, if we got new stuff, we're going to do it. If I thought of a new angle, I'm going to do it. But when this show drops a video, I want you to have a reliable emotional reaction of, yes, something new's out. He's thought something else up, right? Even the Area 52 guy, he's now got himself strapped down. It's going to be interesting because everyone's a big hero for about 2 years on their podcast, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm in my third year. What am I going to do? So going 11, trust me, man, it's an accomplishment. But what ends up, like the Area 52 guy, Chris Ramsey, again, I got really good vibes about this guy so far. He is now having to scrape the barrel of alien whistleblowers on 4chan and Reddit, and he's covering. And it's actually interesting if you're really interested in knowing everything that's being said right now. He's a great resource. But he's doing a sort of one-on-one with you kind of episode like I do all the time, and then he's got these amazing interviews sometimes, right? I don't know why you need to go 3.5 hours with some ball baby security guy who basically saw nothing, right? He has nothing to share at all. I don't get it. It's just not quality. So who cares if you have, again, 4 hours of static? Doesn't matter. I'm also trying to prepare a little bit more for you guys. Cutting the episodes as tight as I can without that jumpy dialogue thing that a lot of guys do. I don't think you need shorter formats. I think you need longer formats. I sat in this room today, and a guy had the TV on the short viewing, and it's just garbage. It's just YouTube short garbage. There are great channels you can get yourself into to watch their shorts, and all the shorts are informative and interesting. So there's good content out there, but this one was just garbage. And I'm sitting there thinking, as life tries to progress, as you try to have a conversation with someone, as you try to form words, I've actually heard people stutter when they talk because who don't stutter. And I don't mean real stuttering. I mean like a weird, jittery, almost electronic kind of version because it's like their brain is in the shorts mode or something. There's a huge attention span problem right now. People ask you questions and the second you're just trying to give them a really compact answer, they don't understand what you said. They'll start talking to somebody else like you never even spoke. It's really weird. Really, really strange. They don't even remember that they asked the question, and they don't remember they didn't get an answer because they turned away, right? So the subtext of a Deep Thoughts episode is just the format itself, right? It's just to make sure that you have something that's going to elongate the frequencies of your brain. And there's a lot of channels that do it. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I just want to be one of those guys. And I know some of you really like the political ones that I used to do called the Chaos Reports. I was talking to a friend of mine today about these individuals like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Alex Jones, and put in whoever you want. They spend all day in these cancerous frequencies and taking a position on these, moving targets called gaslit theory, right? Anything that's in a gaslight bubble, which is everything they're talking about, with these onslaught of this AI war that has basically started on your brain, all this social media nuke videos going up, like, come on. You just simply erode anyone who has any respect for you. How could you not? You're talking about the most acidic subjects of which you're only partially informed about. Probably less than 10% of the facts that you're espousing are true. It's not like these people can't be on the right vector every once in a while. It's just you're mostly wrong about most everything because you've been fed bullshit the whole time, right? So there's plenty of those folks. Who needs to be those folks? There's plenty of people going door to door telling you you're going to hell, trying to give you a Bible. I don't need to be one of those people. If I wanted to have a conversation, you want to have a conversation about something religious, well, let's find a little area we can focus on and we'll share our opinions respectfully for each other. I think you need less cancer frequency, and I think you need more sort of enlightening frequencies. Just frequencies. Maybe what I say doesn't enlighten you, but all enlightenment it's defined as seeing more. All right. Maybe you can see something in the universe you hadn't seen before by listening to my voice, and maybe you'll be enlightened that you think I'm a moron in a certain area of the universe. I'll take it either way. You got a chance to study what you believe in the process of hearing what I believe. Sort of a win-win. The other thing is I have these experiences when I go and talk to my mentors. When I drive to their house and we go have lunch together and then sit in a front room and talk, I will leave their house sometimes, and when I talk to my friends at my destination, like HB or whatever, they'll say, how was your day? And I'll say, man, I felt like my brain turned on for the first time in a long time. And they'll say, what are you talking about? It's like, I got some buddies of mine. I only typically hang out with folks that make me feel that way. But sometimes folks will just, like, if I don't see my mentors, like, there's few of them now, but we've both built up things we want to talk about with each other, right? Because we know that we can talk about those things. It's like two deep thoughts going at it, right? It's not about right and wrong or anything like that. It's just, wow, someone dug deep inside me and said, why do you believe that? I think that's bullshit. I think, yeah, maybe you're right there. I never thought about that. And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for a couple hours. And you can only take it for 3 to 4 hours. We used to do, like, my writing mentor and I, we used to do like 9-hour sessions. And I'd just be like panting in my car. And you feel like you've gained another stash of energy. Like your chest is just like boom, 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 boom. And your brain's like, yes, yes. I don't even know what I'm going to do with this. But I just built up this frequency with this other person, like a static electric ball. And it just is euphoric. And then you go home and do something with it. You write a book, you write a new story. Sometimes we share projects together. So I'm trying, when I experienced that, which I started experiencing probably about 2007, these deep thoughts are, because I watch other people's great videos, I get it. And then I'm trying to kind of project that at you guys too. It's like, just it doesn't matter right or wrong. Don't get all offended and that kind of crap. I know that you guys aren't like that. It's not about that. It's about, I got your mind going. Now go do something with that, you know? And that's kind of why I like to do how to write a movie episodes, because you'd be like, I don't want to write a movie. Oh, wow, I understand that. Oh, yeah, well, you know, I had that story, you know, yeah, and you start tippity typing away in here, suddenly like you're a writer. But an hour ago, you didn't think you were. And you have to understand, I was trying to get this the other day. I think I can safely say I've taught over 1,000 people in classes that I put together and taught. Sometimes at universities and sometimes at the companies. Like when I was at Electronic Arts, I was there in their internet division when I blew up EA.com. I had a company full of, how many employees was it? I can't remember. It varied, but it's something like 1,500 employees or something at the time. And nobody knows anything about the internet, really. So the problem was, no one could talk the talk. You'd have an expert trying to talk to somebody else about a task they need to complete, just a logistical task, not a programming task. And they're like, I don't understand the words coming out of your mouth. So I started a class there, and I was packed constantly. And I taught an upper level class on how to program that stuff. I started teaching in, when I was 24, a UI class for database folks. Did that for probably, 2 or 3 years. I've done a lot of university teaching. So, it's in my family. We got some teachers in my family. So it's just, I just hate it when a professor sucks. When they haven't been in the real world. And so they're having a pissing contest with their students who don't know anything about what they know, which is why we're in the class together, right? I bought a book on how to write sentences. It was an audiobook. And I bought this, oh gosh, wish I could credit this guy. I bought this other book about how to write screenplays. And English was the second language of this gentleman, but he had a great grasp of the English language, although he'd mess up every once in a while. But his book, the good book, it was actually a book of lectures. So it was only meant to be an audiobook. And it would be a little bit of, clapping at the beginning of every chapter, and then he'd present brilliantly. He had basically farmed everyone else's ideas about how to write screenplays, and then he'd conclude, and he'd get this clap, this big applause. Well earned, right? Flip over to the one about how to write sentences. This is some PhD level professor. I learned a lot from how it's all constructed. It wasn't worth the 14 hours that I had to listen to it. But this guy, you could tell, had been anywhere and hadn't done anything. Never said he wrote a book or anything. He had audible.com cut and paste into, because he read his own book, fake clapping at the beginning of every chapter. And it's the same clip. It's the same clip. Like when you have ears like ours nowadays, you just know, right? That one weird clap at the end is always there. And then at the end of every chapter, he played a fake applause at the end. I mean, what kind of conceited douchebag would do that, right? That guy's never been anywhere and never done anything. He wants to be famous. He's sitting there with the microphone in his living room, probably at a fake podium. I don't know. But he talked in the nomenclature. He chose the words that are at this high level, like PhD level sentence construction. It took me like a couple chapters just to kind of sink in with how this guy was talking. And that's an asshole. That's just an asshole, not trying to be showboaty in front of you. And what's most important is you get the information. See, when I taught, one, I was paid to teach clients that would come in. That's the first thing. And then it was teaching my employees by the hundreds, right? To make sure every time we had a conversation, we're moving the company forward. I need all the employees from all the different departments to just speak the same language. When you have to get it done, when you have to make sure that people understand something, you cut through all the bullshit and you talk like a normal human being. It's not about me. I am just like, if I could be a robot, I'd be a robot. I'm actually hoping in 5 years, all public schools are taught by AI, because that'll knock all those crappy teachers out. The ones that shine will probably be the ones hired by the AI companies to teach it how to do what it does, Now, you're going to need humans for a lot of different reasons. You can't say, well, I don't know. It'd be kind of hard to teach physical ed without a human being. Chemistry has some experiments that need to take place, right? So as I have delved into episodes with a lot of technology, like the scalar pulse theory, that where I break down the Wardenclyffe Tower and I show you how the pyramids probably generated power and how the Wardenclyffe Tower by Nikola Tesla was most likely tapping into that. The guy at Crystal Castle was most likely tapping into that to move gigantic 60-ton limestone rocks. I don't want you to get confused. Or to think I've got a big vocabulary or something. That's just a waste of my energy. But one thing else I want to note here. One thing else, is that a way to say that? Another thing I want to say, I've done a lot of episodes, and I took all the chaos reports out. There's the regiment episodes. I did 9 episodes about the 2020 debacle all the way to its end. Took those out. A lot of penalties for putting that stuff up. I've had a lot of great episodes. Like I said, almost 50 episodes have been deleted by YouTube. Go to the website. There's a whole category removed by YouTube. Hey man, those are real important to your brain. Trust me. It's exactly what they don't want you to see. And just test it. Go into any of those episodes on the website that says, these were removed, and tell me if they're boring. Tell me if they're not dead on to what's going on today, right? But I was talking to a friend of mine a couple nights ago at dinner, and I said, I think I can safely say that out of the probably, I don't know, I've done 850 episodes plus, roughly in that area. They've taken 50 out. I've taken probably another, 30 out because of chaos reports and that kind of stuff. But of the stuff that's left, and of course, season 1's on a different channel on YouTube, I don't think I need to delete any episodes because of being completely wrong. You look at my first AI episode, which I think is like episode 4 in 2015. I told you about the robot dogs. I told you exactly how they're going to be programmed and what's going to be a threat and what's not going to be a threat. And now it's 2026, and it's like I'm telling you, you could take my episode predicting how those robots were going to be armed and programmed to kill you with almost nothing. And you could just play a current video of a Chinese dog robot with the gun on the top, and it's going to look like I'm narrating a video made 11 years later. So unlike some personalities that, and I don't mean to be holier than thou, but there's definitely a couple personalities out there, one in Austin, Texas, who will claim he invented every theory in the planet and he was always ahead of the game, even if he's stealing from Bill Cooper half the time. A man who died because he was actually right first. A lot of those episodes are prophetic. I mean, it's like I'm telling you what's going to take place, and it's been taking place. So it's like, go get the cheat sheet now, because there's a whole lot of stuff in there that is still true that hasn't come to pass. And I think that, not that I detailed it in any major anthropological future view of the world, but Rollerball 1975 episode, it's like you are at the precursor stage of what is portrayed in that movie. And pay attention to if you ever see the film, pay attention to the black gentleman who is his former coach of Jonathan E., played by James Caan, brilliantly. When they get to the middle of the movie, where they're at this fireplace, I think it's the last night his wife is going to be in the room too, and his former coach says, I remember the corporate wars. They were bloody or something like that. They're brutal. Again, countries fall, corporations take over. And the whole world, when the movie starts, is about the Houston Corporation, who has the rollerball team that James Caan is on. His fictional name is Jonathan E. So you can get directly involved with the storyline, which is also very important on a social level, on a real, almost like a psychological level. It's real sociology. And then watch all the overall tells of how society is going to be, which is run by corporations. Watch when he tries to find out how executive decisions are made. He flies to Geneva and tries to get out of a supercomputer, a super AI computer, which is all water, by the way. The old man who runs the computer, I think, said he lost the 11th century We lost it somewhere. It's somewhere around here. We just lost it. They lost all the history of the 11th century. We'll brace for that one. That'll happen. We don't remember that year 2001 for some reason. We don't remember 1941 anymore. We don't remember how the Vietnam War started. Just wait for those. Remember Blade Runner 2049, the heaping pile of sci-fi that was, with Jared Leto, the guy that can destroy any movie just by showing up at the set. They talked about this purge, this sort of data ice age that happened, right? It was like we lost this. I can't remember I think I lost all the data past a certain point. Oh, that's going to take place. If you don't print your family photos and put it in a book, and if you don't protect it against probably Lahaina problems or Paradise, California problems, which everyone's forgotten, by the way. I mean, is anyone talking about the huge earthquakes that happened in Venezuela anymore? No. But if you don't print your photographs, you'll never see them again. It blows me away that, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's just like I'm overplaying because my father was a photographer and everything is printed out. I don't know, but imagine, you got, I thought of a funny story. It's kind of a Twilight Zone, but it'll kind of fit into here. I was eating dinner tonight. I thought, what if there was a story where and this wasn't a big deal 150 years ago, but imagine in this modern day age, someone says, show me a picture of your mom. And because of a perfect storm of circumstances, the person says, well, that's funny you'd ask me that. My mother never got a photograph taken of herself. What do you mean? Cell phones and all? No. She took a lot of photographs, but she's not in any of them. And we have a batch of scientists that are taking all the photographs that she ever took to see if we have her in a reflection of a piece of glass or in a doorknob or in a button on someone's shirt. And so far, nothing. She is the woman that was never photographed, right? And today, that would be like a Black Mirror, right? But, I don't know, 50 years ago, if you didn't have a picture of someone, it would be weird, but it wouldn't be like inconceivable, I got a bunch of relatives and I don't know if there's any pictures of them. From like my great grandmothers. I have one picture of one of my great grandmothers. I don't know if I have a picture of the other one. Photographs have existed since the early 1800s. Seems like everyone would step in front of it. So imagine that, you have kids, you take 1,000 pictures of them because they're just free on the phone. It wasn't free when my kid was a baby, but pretty soon after. And it just gets wiped off a drive. Gets wiped out of the cloud. You think you got, some cloud services. I got Apple Clouds. And then suddenly there's a fire or there's something more horrible that happens. And you get notified that everything in that cloud was destroyed and your account didn't get backed up and something else happened to your collection and you're just screwed, right? But maybe it's vain to print pictures. I don't know. There's that old saying that you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. I just have to say, I think that's a tremendous statement. All of us go through that weird experience when you grow up a certain way, you think everyone's like you, and then you find out they're not, and it's a really weird thing. My family was really big, and I've said this in episodes 10 years ago, but my family was really big on inspiring the children by referencing everyone else in the family. We had doctors, we had scientists, we had whatever, we had everything, artists, like really good ones of all kinds. And so they would tell you, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which is a great question for kids to have, right? Opens their minds completely. And if I said I want to be an artist, oh yeah, that's right. Well, your cousin Tommy, he does that too. He's in Los Angeles. He's a professional artist, painter, da-da-da. Oh, and your Uncle Clint, he can do that, blah, da, da, da. And just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Wait, so-and-so's a doctor. Got 2 or 3 doctors here and there. Then all of a sudden, it's like, it's not an insurmountable goal. And they truly believe it too, right? They're like, we have whatever it takes, just push those buttons in your brain. It'll come to you. And of course, I'm in my brain pushing every single button on the elevator, right? So I screwed up my life by falling in love with too many things at the same time. So I do think it's important that you have some history. My dad finally got the family photos all scanned and sent me a whole hard drive of all those, which I pushed to the cloud. I digitally enhanced them. It's cool. I don't know half these people. Some of these pictures are People sitting out, I'll show you some sitting out in front of a house, I don't know, 1800s. But it's interesting to know you got genetics from a particular country. I guess she's a great grandmother who was from Ireland, I think. Her last name's Meyer, or Mayer, Mahar, something like that. It's one of the most versatilely spelled last names in the entire country. Kavanaugh's the other one, spelled a bunch of different ways. So it's interesting, right? You know, if you have Hamburg, Germany, Nordic kind of genes, well, then there's something about that area. It's the foods you might be able to analyze. Maybe it's the arts that were in the area that maybe call out to why your genetics are just pre-programmed to know, you know, a key of music or something. I don't know. But you can always be the first generation too. That's a beautiful thing. And I do think it hopscotches. I think you can have parents that are pretty basic, good people, whatever, not good people, doesn't matter. And suddenly you just have your shit together. You're like, man, I don't understand. My parents are weird. They're nothing like me. It's like, hey, how about your grandparents? Or maybe one more generation back. You never know. But if you don't have the information about those people, you don't know. You are those people. Genetically, you have their base neural nets as soon as you're born. But I thought I would try to answer the one question that no one's ever asked me, ever. Because it's a question I ask myself, especially after 11 years of this. Why create Deep Thoughts in the first place? Why have the show? I think the answer evolves over time. I think it's a weird, strange reason that changes as the show progresses. The honest answer is I wanted to talk about publicly all the things in season one. That's why season one's so different than all the other things. I mean, there's definitely the vignette ones. Episode 26, the first moon episode ever, the flat earth one. Get to 165 is the other big moon one that has tons of views. And we're talking 50,000 views or something. But once you get that out of your system, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got my personal problems out of the way. Talking basically to myself at you, hoping that something I'm saying gets to become a shortcut for you, or some arrow you can put in your quiver, right? And then it became like, okay, let's turn this into a real show. And that's when you start getting, you know, episodes. I'm trying to think about season 2. I know by season 1, the opening episode was Bigfoot, where I'm talking to you guys about Bigfoot, and I've never been a Bigfoot guy. I've not been necessarily against it or for it. I just wasn't an interesting thing to me. I always thought it was a hoax. I still think it's a hoax. If you watch the episode, you're going to see my brain have an epiphany during the episode. It's an interesting thing. It's episode 300. But I realized that if this creature existed, there'd be a mating ritual, which is going to be very vocal. And there's going to be a female carrying a child for, got to be longer than 9 months. We as human beings carry 9 months. They're big, giant beasts. You would at least think 9 to 12 months. The birthing's going to be loud and painful. There's going to be placenta everywhere. There's going to be biomass everywhere. And then you have a very tender, vulnerable child. Even if it's hairy, it doesn't matter, right? It's going to be vulnerable. It's going to be vulnerable to the elements. I mean, you're telling me that a grizzly bear or a black bear finds one of these things and they just shred it? I don't think so. If you think that that can happen, you haven't seen a bear in real life. You know, they got claws that are like, you know, nearly a foot across. I mean, they have claws that are, I should say a paw, it's about a foot across, but their claws could be like 8 inches to 10 inches. That thing coming down on you, I don't think Bigfoots have ever been even theorized to have that kind of defense. It's going to rip one to shreds. Okay, so a bear rips one to shreds. All the bugs eat everything. Someone's going to find a skeleton, right? A half-eaten one. One is dragging like half an arm across it's never, right? It's always a hoax. So I'm right in the middle of the episode, and all of a sudden I have these epiphanies, and then I learned something just by talking to you guys. I never heard myself say these words. I never even considered for a second this was real, but I pushed myself into that realm of my brain, and I got that out. I'm sure you guys have done it too. I'm sure you've done it. But I do think that after doing the show, one of the things that came to mind was we don't talk enough to anybody let alone ourselves. If you think about what's going on in this room right now, I'm talking to myself, but I'm pointing my face at a camera and I'm recording it. Then I'm sending it to you. I do think about you guys individually as I'm doing the show, but technically speaking, I'm talking to myself. So now do that and try to write down, 800 ideas. Hell, I'll give you 700 ideas that you would talk to another human being about and try to keep it interesting. It's tough. Now, there are other channels out there that do harvest great ideas, and I definitely dabble in those other channels sometimes. There's that guy, he's one of the biggest shows on YouTube, but he's got a talking fish, He's got a really strange voice. He's absolutely, almost unequivocally the opposite of what I would ever want to listen to. I don't want to listen to a really strange voice. Nothing against the guy whatsoever. The fish thing is like anti-funny to me. Okay, but that guy comes up with pretty interesting subjects. He really leans into it all, right? He's trying to, it could be the worst story on planet Earth, no evidence whatsoever. It could even be the conspiracy guy comes out and says, I was lying the entire time and here's all the proof. And that guy will either skip that evidence or he'll spin it so that the guy's still, still telling the truth. I just can't do that with you guys, but I can take the subject matter and investigate it. So I got the Virginia, Brazil, my favorite UFO encounter of all time. And I'm a huge fan of Roswell. And I got that off Chris Ramsey from Area 52. So if you guys know channels that have subjects that consistently you find interesting and you're like, I wonder what, Deep Thoughts thinks about it, man, just link that over in the comments. I'll go watch it and we'll do our take on it. And I always give credit, if I find something with somebody else. But while I have your ear, if you're still here, then you're OG. I just appreciate you folks taking your time out to watch something. It's a fascinating thing when you have 6,500 subscribers, but maybe the most that will watch a video now is 3,000. I don't know where the other 3,500 are. I don't know if they're all bots or what it is, right? But I'm really trying to focus on quality. I'm trying to adjust some of my procedures on my end. I'm always trying to tighten up the production, the pre-production of the episodes, my research, how I put it all together. I got a pretty good memory, but sometimes I'm doing research the day of, and so I'm reading out on my phone, which I hate to do to you guys. I just try to edit it down so it goes really, really fast. I probably have at least another 4 months on the book before I take it into AI, a literary AI thing to make sure the editing, make sure my grammar's correct. It's going to help me figure out whether I should be cutting paragraphs a certain way, repetitive words, that kind of stuff. I know a few repetitive words I'm using. And then I'm going to send it to my buddy Kyle Talcher, who's an incredible writer. If you haven't read his books, oh my God, Medusa Psalms. He's got one that's coming out here called Exeter. It's going to be amazing. And Livewire, that'll be a movie one day. He's going to read it first as a human being after I get through all the tools to make sure I'm not wasting his time. Then it goes to a professional editor. He's got one I'm going to use. And then I want to copyright it before I send it to Kyle, just so that if it slips out anywhere, it's cool. Everything's copyrighted, by the way, the second that you write it and you can prove that you wrote it. So you don't need official channels. In fact, if you write a movie, don't send it to the WGA. That's just a way to get your movie stolen. You are copyrighted because you wrote the script. You don't need WGA crappy 2-year thing. Send it to the Copyright Office. And that way, if someone steals it, you get statutory damages, which is, I think, 9 times the settlement. It's huge. But once that goes off for editing, my time's going to return in a huge way. I've got a lot of AI stuff I'm doing and a few other programming projects. So I'll be back. I'll be ready to go. So let's design this next phase together, if you would. Especially if you're an OG listener, just go back in your brain and go, man, I loved this episode. Even if you can just pick an episode that'll help us focus in on a genre. I know a lot of folks will say to me, you can do moon stuff all you want. If you're a moon person, the moon hoax, if you go out and watch an interview with either Sibrel or somebody else, just link it in the comments, because you're allowed to type in YouTube links inside your comments. And then If you can fast forward to anything you think is very specific, go ahead and turn on the little checkbox when you copy the link that says timestamp. A lot of you guys are really good at that. The one thing I will tell you that I love when you guys do this in the comments, I'll say something either funny or something that you don't agree with or whatever, and you guys will stop. And I don't know how exactly this works in the comments, but you'll type something and you'll cut and paste the link directly to that timestamp in the video, and then you'll finish your sentence. I don't know how to do that. I've never explored it, but it's really funny when, especially if I can pop a little joke off and you guys are laughing at something, I'll go and click on it. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, you guys think that's great. We have a mutual moment there. That's the beautiful thing about it. So someone did ask me about doing live chats. I don't think I could get you guys into a room easily for that. I would probably have to pre-produce that for a couple weeks. And then I don't know about the camera and the streaming and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't want to get to a point where I'm just blathering because the internet's forever, Anyway, but thank you so much for joining the show. At any point you joined it, tons of episodes. Do remember, the website has it all. There's on the web version, there's just categories. So just find the category you love and make sure you ingest those. But it might be a good time to go back and just, especially if you invested years with me. Some of you have been around for 12 years because you were in MK Ultra Radio. I mean, I trust your opinion more than my own. Let's put it that way. Anyway, thanks for joining. Take care of yourself and someone else, and I'll see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over now.